Mic check. Mic check. Can you hear me? Think we hot. Playoffs, baby. We in effect. I will start the conversation. What's going on, guys? How y'all doing tonight? Running good? That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to start the conversation tonight. I'm going to say the same thing that I said to those Philadelphia fans after Atlanta beat them in Game 4. I'm saying the same thing to Milwaukee fans. If you screw around with this Atlanta team, you will be watching the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say about that. You get these dudes in the chokehold, you better make sure that you choke them out. Otherwise, the longer you let them stick around, the more confidence you give them. The more confidence you give them, the better they play. And the better they play, that's worse for you guys. So the quicker you guys deal with these guys, the quicker they'll be gone. So I'm liking this matchup. I'm liking this matchup for Milwaukee more than anybody, more than Atlanta. Milwaukee's got a better rebounding team. They got 2 guys averaging 20 a game, even though Atlanta got 6 averaging in double figures, right? They got a better rebounding team and they got a better overall defensive team. So Giannis just looks more focused than what he's been in the past. It's almost like, I've been here before. This is probably my best opportunity to win. And I'm more prepared this time. And let's be clear about one thing, guys. In this instance, at the pro level, it's almost at any level. It's at the high school level. It's at the college level. Being good ain't good enough, man. You need some things to go your way. And in this particular situation, that's exactly what's going on. This is the best opportunity that Milwaukee is going to have, or that Giannis has had at this point, to win the NBA championship. So we don't know if this opportunity is going to come again, man. This kid Trae Young is somebody that nobody's really talking about. I mean, we talked about earlier for the regular season, this guy is 25-9. I think Luka and James Harden are the only guys who are 20. I think Luka is 27-8 and James Harden is 26-10. Nobody else is doing that. Russ isn't 25-10. Russ isn't 25-9. He is 22-11, but that's not the same thing, man. This kid Trae Young is the real deal. He's an efficient long ball shooter. He's a distributor. He's not a sneaky distributor. Let's get to the bottom of that right now. He's not a sneaky distributor because he is second in the league in assists. So this Atlanta team is not playing around, and they are very serious about getting to the NBA Finals. So, what you guys talking about tonight? I'm 6 foot, flat-footed, no shoes on. I'm 6'3". What do I think about Devin Booker? I talked about this last night, and I'll talk about it again. Devin Booker, the best way I can describe his game, Devin Booker just got a smooth game, man. He looks effortless getting to his spots. His game seems to be one where it's just maturing as we see him go. And he's more focused on getting to spots than he is dealing with the defense, because once he gets to his spots, he just raises up, and he looks almost impossible once he gets there. So I think Devin Booker is going to be a star offensively. I'd like to see him play on the other side of the basketball more, but I'm a huge fan of Devin Booker. Thoughts on the Euros? I mean, what is there to say, man? Luka he's the class of the Euros right now. He's awesome. I mean, what other Euros are we talking about? I think Milwaukee, I think they win tonight. I think they win the series, actually. I've said this already. I said the Brooklyn-Milwaukee winner wins the Eastern Conference, and the Clips-Jazz winner wins the Western Conference. And I'm standing on that. I used to watch soccer when my daughter played. I don't know much about it, but when my daughter played, I don't know much about it in terms of teams, but I'm familiar with the game because I had to learn the game because my daughter was playing, right? My daughter was playing, so I had to learn it. And I didn't know anything about it before she started playing. So I had to learn what a forward was. I had to learn what a striker was. I had to understand exactly what the goalie's responsibility was. So I'm familiar with it. So I think Ronaldo is the class of soccer, as far as I know. I think I already answered this question. That's fine. That's fine. I'll answer it again. Flat-footed, I'm 6'3". What do I think about Kawhi? I think Kawhi is incredible. I think that knee injury that he has, I think it's a lot worse than what they're telling us. I personally think he's out for the rest of the playoffs. Contusions and sprains take weeks to heal. Torn tendons, torn ligaments, and broken bones take months to heal. And I think this thing is way worse than what they're telling us. Way worse. So, I do watch baseball. I bleed Mets blue. I think we got the best arm in Jake DeGrom. I don't appreciate how they are. I'm sorry for a second. Yeah, Giannis. And I'll answer your question in a second. I want to see Giannis abuse John Collins. And the reason why I want to see him abuse him is for the simple fact, I want to see him abuse him for the simple fact that I don't appreciate guys who are full of themselves. And I think John Collins is one of them dudes. I think he's one of them dudes that he think he the nicest on the floor, which you can think that. But when it's obvious that you're not, you need to humble yourself. And he thinks he's the best player out there. And his play doesn't show it. Can Julius Randle be a second option on the championship team? You got to get a really good number one. So the best example I can give you with that is I think that the Knicks are Kawhi Leonard away. If they had Leonard or somebody like that on their unit, I think they go to the top of the Eastern Conference. And that includes an Eastern Conference with Milwaukee and Brooklyn in it, in my opinion. My thoughts on Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford was wasting away in Detroit. I think after they lost Megatron, he really took I don't think he took a step back, but the team took a step back. That's a major weapon that was no longer in his arsenal. That's a big deal. That's like Devontae Adams getting taken away from Aaron Rodgers. As good as Aaron Rodgers is, I'm sure his play will decrease without Devontae Adams on the crew. Well, Leonard can't leave Los Angeles because what it looks like if he does leave Los Angeles, it just looks bad on his part. If he were to leave Los Angeles, he was the one who set this whole thing up. Him. He was the one who set this whole thing up. He was the one who told Paul George to force his way out of. He was the one who told Paul George to force his way out of Oklahoma City, and that's how he ended up in Los Angeles. So let me move this back just a little bit. So it's not right on me. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit better. I think Cade Cunningham. I don't know if he's a franchise player, but he looks like he's somebody that you can possibly build it around. Whenever I watch him, he looks more like he looks like a poor man's Grant Hill, and he's a phenomenal playmaker. I think he's got the ability to score, so I like his game. I mean, Lamar Jackson goes without saying. And Lamar Jackson goes without saying. There's really, I mean, what can't you say about Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson wins the Heisman as a freshman. He comes back as a sophomore and actually has a better season, and he's not in the Heisman running, which is foreign to me. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Do you think there are players that should not be in the NBA? No, I don't think that at all. Every player that's playing in the NBA is good enough to be on this roster. You guys have no idea how good these guys are. None whatsoever. Like I hear guys talk a lot about this guy isn't very good or this guy isn't very good. If you go to a gym where your best player is in that gym and just playing pickup, right? The best player in that gym is playing pickup. And you look at what this guy is doing. The 8th or 9th man on the worst team, the best player playing pickup, who's not in the NBA, that's playing at the local gym, the 8th or 9th man will come into that gym and he'll eat that guy's lunch. And this is the best player playing pickup in this gym. The 8th or 9th man will come in. The 8th or 9th man on the Oklahoma City Thunder will come into that gym and he will destroy that guy. He wouldn't be better. He will destroy him. So just to give you an idea. Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent, and there's really not much else you can say about him. His play speaks for itself. He's a generational talent. That's how good he is. I think Ja Morant's going to be an all-league performer at some point. What's up, my man? I don't really have a specific guy I can compare to Ja Morant because he's at that point in his career right now where he's new, and when these guys come into the league, a lot of people talk. In fact, most of the talking heads talk about these guys winning, and that's the recipe for being great. And these guys are trying to prove because they played 1 year of college, they played maybe 2 years in college. These guys are trying to prove that they can stick. So, I mean, that was the problem that Kobe and Shaq were having. Kobe gets with Shaq, and Kobe's trying to prove that, I'm really that good. Only except that's during the same time when Shaq has already lost in the finals. And now people are questioning his greatness. And he needs Kobe's game to expand so he can win. So in the process of that, Kobe is being demanded to win, but he's also in the process of that trying to prove that I can stick. I'm nice. So he's torn between the two. So Ja Morant is one of those guys who I think he's going to be around for a long time. I think he's a phenomenal talent, but he's still in that stage where he's trying to prove that he can stick. What are my thoughts on Frank Gore in his prime? Frank Gore is my favorite 49er. So I keep getting this question, Donovan Mitchell or Booker, and I think Donovan Mitchell right now is a better player. I think Book will eventually be a better player. He's bigger than Donovan Mitchell. I think he's just as offensively talented as Donovan Mitchell. I think he might even be a better. If you ask me to pick between them two in terms of an offensive player, Donovan Mitchell is a better overall offensive player, but Devin Booker isn't far behind him. Not at all. What's up, Noah? How you doing, brother? Is Dame good? Yes, Dame is very good. James Harden all time because he's a better overall player than Vince Carter. That doesn't mean that Vince Carter wasn't awesome. I'm running good tonight, brother. Dan, how you doing, man? My thoughts on Luka is the ultimate Euro, and there's really not much to say about him. Ooh, that's with the weak hand. That's not with the strong hand. That's with the weak hand, Drew. I like that. I like that a lot. Day's going good, John. How you doing, brother? My thoughts on the Pelicans' future right now, it's in disarray. That hire of Stan Van Gundy was a bad one. I think that the game, I put him in the same category with guys like Phil Jackson, Pat Riley. The game is, those guys, their coaching style is outdated. And that tough love, it worked with Tibbs because Tibbs turned it down. And he's adapted to the NBA style of play today. And with Stan Van Gundy, he's got a bunch of young guys in there who are trying to prove that they can play at that level. And they're really not listening to him. They tune him out. My thoughts on Glenn Rice. Glenn Rice would be ridiculous today. In today's game, 6'8", 6'9", money mid-range game, knock down the long ball, efficient one-on-one player. I think Glenn Rice he'd be a star today in today's game. What's the next move for the Mavs? They got to get better defensively. They got to get Luka another star. I'd like to see them get better individually. I love Tim Hardaway. I hated when he left the Knicks because I thought that he could be their starting two guard for the next 10 years for what they were doing. I think that they have to, one, get Luka another star. Two, demand that that second unit that they have, demand that those guys come back better. Porzingis, if he wants to be more involved in the offense, because I think he could be a really good number 3. If he wants to be more involved in the offense, prove it. You're one of the better players, not just on that team. He is one of the better players in the game. You can demand the basketball. You don't have to be quiet about that. And that's the problem that we have with Euros, is that they seem timid. So I think that they can continue to shore up that second unit, and I think Luka's going to come back next year. I think if he could play a little bit more efficiently on the other side of the ball, I'd be a lot happier with him. I don't have anything bad to say about him overall, but I can say that I'd like to see him play on the other side of the basketball more. It's interesting that you mentioned that. When am I going to start accepting donations? I just found out about. I think YouTube said something about I have to have a certain amount of views before I can do that. And I think after tonight, I'll look into that and I'll start doing that. Probably after tonight, I'll look into that. My thoughts on LaDainian Tomlinson is that he was a first-class running back. Not just a first-class running back. He was a first-class overall player. He was a first-class overall player. And I think that him breaking down when he did was really unfortunate, because I thought he was on pace to be Walter Payton good. I thought he was on pace to be Emmitt Smith good. I played basketball when I was in high school and college. Kemba. To be honest with you, the Kemba thing, I think he regrets leaving Charlotte. He'll say to the media that, and he'll say to everybody else that the Boston situation was a great situation because they were winning, even though they did make the playoffs in Charlotte. I think he regrets leaving there. They could have paid him the most. He was on pace to be the best player in the history of their organization. And now he's becoming a journeyman, because he's not going to be in Oklahoma City long. I don't think so. Allen Iverson, I put him in the same category with Steph Curry in the aspect of they're not the traditional guards. They're not the traditional shooting guard and the traditional point guard. There's nothing traditional about Allen Iverson. He's not 6'5" and running off screens just to shoot jump shots like Allen Houston used to do, or Ray Allen. Allen was a different kind of guard. That's why I don't put him in the same category with Jordan, Bryant, D Wade. No, he is in the same category with Steph Curry in the aspect of him being he was just a different kind of guard. And Steph Curry isn't a traditional point guard because he isn't a primary distributor like Stockton, like Magic. So I want to dead that narrative that Steph Curry is going to be the best point guard. No, he's not. Because number one, he never averaged double-figure assists. So he's not a primary distributor. He's a scoring point guard. Not even a point guard. He's a scoring guard. Not to mention, he's not their primary ball handler. That's Draymond Green's responsibility. Well, Dame just, to answer your question, he just re-upped, and that contract kicks in next season. So he just re-upped for 4 more years. And I don't think he's going anywhere. So, thoughts on the Bad Boy Pistons? Well, thoughts on the Bad Boy Pistons. You have to be transparent here. I can appreciate how they built what they did and how important to the culture the Bad Boys were. I lost a lot of respect for Isaiah Thomas when they walked off the floor like they did in 91. I did. I lost a lot of respect for him. And the reason why I lost a lot of respect for him is because, and I said this in the past, I've never been the best player on any team that I've ever played on. And I played on some good teams. But I have been on some teams where I was able to hold the ball and make it clear ain't nobody winning until we quit. But I also been on teams where I've gotten my ass kicked, for lack of a better term. And I know what it's like to get your ass kicked and to have to come back and try again, which they kept doing. So they should, at the very minimum, respect the fact that the Bulls kept coming back. And then for the Bulls to get past them, all that garnered was this right here. Yo, it's yours now. Protect it. Let's see if you could defend it. That's all it should have been. Instead, it was, and I lost a lot of respect just because of the work that goes in to getting to the top. And they knew that because they did it. Thoughts on Wilder and Fury. I don't understand why Tyson Fury getting back in the ring with this dude. He's a better boxer. His technique is better. He's got better footwork. He keeps his hands busy. His defense is better. Wiley is just he's a brawler. Barry Sanders. What can you say about Barry Sanders except if you've ever seen a cat run and how it changes speeds when it's getting chased and bang, bang. That's who Barry was. He wasn't that good in the playoffs, but that's who Barry was. Excuse me for a second, guys. A minute. Got a bit of a technical issue here. Alrighty. I'm sorry, as we were. I think Jamal Charles would have been an all-time great if he didn't have knee problems. He was awesome. Klay Thompson is one of the best catch-and-shoot guys that I've ever seen. But let's see here. I'm not a UFC guy. I'm more of a boxing guy, and I get a lot of flack from my friends about it. The UFC, what it reminds me of, it's a street fight with rules, and I'm not a huge UFC guy. I have watched John Bones Jones a couple of times, but I'm not a big fan. No, I'm not. The Celtics' new coach. One, I'm appreciating the fact of having a black coach and another black coach in the NBA, and the other part is some new guys in here, because what the NBA is notorious for is recycling bad coaches and then wondering why you're still getting the same results with the Mike D'Antonis and the Stan Van Gundys of the world. When you actually get some new blood in there and a new system, and a coach who can relate to these guys, maybe you'll get a different result. And I like what the Celtics are doing with this hire. I do. I did think that they were going to go with Rick Carlisle, but I do like what they're doing, which would explain why Jason Kidd, when he took himself out of the running in Portland. Nice job, Giannis. He can do that all day against Capella, dragging him away from the basket like that, but then abusing him. Short, good shot, Trey. Nope, rebound. Who's my favorite NBA player of all time, or who's my favorite NBA player today? I do watch baseball. I'm a Mets fan. My thoughts on the Cavs' future is they're building it around Garland and Sexton. Being in that space like Cleveland, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, where you got to build it through the draft. There is no quick fix. There is none. So for example, I think I talked about this yesterday. Minnesota is in a tricky situation because them losing, good shot, Trey. Them losing that pick to Golden State means virtually they got to run it back. Because, who's signing in Minnesota? A big-time free agent. Other than that, they're going to have to package a deal to maybe move Cat, which I'm really not liking that. But that's why Rudy Gobert is on the All-NBA team, because Minnesota sucks. Minnesota's a bad team. If they weren't bad and they were at least decent, Cat would be an All-NBA performer. Derrick Henry is a beast. I don't think these guys don't talk nearly enough about Trae Young because we're so wrapped up in what Luka is doing. Even though, and Trae Young is a very average-looking guy. He's small. He's not very big in stature. So he's an average-looking guy. So because of that, you don't talk about him much, even though he's second in the league in assists, 25-9. And, this was a bad Atlanta team. And now they're right in the middle of trying to get to the NBA Finals. And that's primarily because of Trae Young. If Budenholzer gets fired, who are you replacing him with? Because what happens because I hear a lot of fans talking about how coaches need to be fired. Well, you can't leave where you are until you know where you're going. So when you leave where you are, who you going with? Do I think Portland should trade CJ? Well, I've said this before, that the ceiling for that Trailblazer team, I think they hit it in 19 when they went to the West Finals. The general manager said this team is plateaued. It didn't. It regressed. They went back the other way. Now, I still think Dame and CJ are a premier backcourt, but it's clear that they're not enough. Good pass, yo. Good pass. Like I say, he averages 9 assists, and he's going to keep them in this game. And nope, that's not a foul. The next Pelicans head coach, I think Jason Kidd wants that Laker job. And if he doesn't, That's why he turned down that Portland job, because I think he wants that Laker job. But if not that Laker job, I wouldn't be surprised if he took that Pelicans job. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Well, Simmons for McCullough, the reason why that works, number one, because the contracts match up, so the money works. Number two, this is the guy who's going to deal with, well, number two, Ben Simmons has not played with a perimeter player like this. He never played with a perimeter player like Dame, and Dame never played with a defender on the perimeter like Ben. So that means that Dame doesn't have to deal with Chris Paul. Dame doesn't have to deal with all the elite point guards in the game, in the Western Conference. He don't got to deal with none of those guys, right? That would be Ben Simmons having to deal with these guys. The problem that we're having with Ben Simmons is offensively, he's a liability. Not completely offensively, but we're talking about in the meat and potatoes of the game, because his mid-range is suspect. I mean, he did have, as a playmaker, he's really good. I mean, we're talking about it. He had 13 assists in Game 7. He did do that. And he held Trae Young to under 38% shooting. So, but I'm not really feeling trading Ben. He's got to get better, and that's what I would like. I'd like to see him come back better. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I got Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons got one more year with me offensively before I'm out. So, who's my favorite NBA team of all time? My favorite NBA team of all time. It's that 91-92 Bulls team. That 91-92 Bulls team. I know the 95-96 team won 72 games, and they were awesome, and they basically marched through the Eastern Conference. But that 91-92 Bulls team, man, that was the Jordan who just had it figured out. That was just it. And when you as a player are running with somebody that's like that, that confidence that he exudes, it gets on you. And I mean, I heard a guy say, and it made a lot of sense, man walks taller when he walked with James Brown, which means that when you're running with somebody like that, my game expands and my chest sticks out a little bit more and my voice is a little bit louder because I'm with this dude. So that's exactly what happened with that 91-92 Bulls team. I think that the 91-92 Bulls team or that 2000-2001 Laker team, that 2000-2001 Laker team, they were phenomenal, considering all the nonsense. I didn't used to coach in San Rafael. No, sir. Who's my favorite NBA player of all times? Wow, I got to pick one. James is one of my favorite players. I loved Shaq. I just loved watching Shaq just be the consummate big man. Olajuwon, I can talk about Olajuwon for days. I remember being so in awe watching Jabbar, thinking to myself, man, if I was 7 foot, that's exactly how I would play. If I was 7 feet tall, I'd play just like I would get that kind of shot in my game, and that's how I would play. Fly Ty, what's up, brother? How you running? Steve Smith was very good. Larry Bird was more skilled than Kobe Bryant. Kobe was a better athlete. I think Larry Bird is a better overall player because he was more efficient. KG's a better player than Dirk because he played on both sides of the ball. Mahad, what's up, brother? How you doing? What about Kareem? What's up? What's good? I'm good. Ain't nothing. Jess, what's up, my man? I am a boxing fan, not much of a UFC fan. What do I think about Alonzo Ball? I think that good shot. What do I think about Alonzo Ball? I think that if he at 12:01 on free agent day I think the Knicks will be knocking on his door because he's exactly what they're looking for. He's exactly who they need. Exactly that. Good D. That's nothing. Rebound. Nice job, y'all. I think Bill Russell is an all-time defender. Yes, he is. I think he's up there with the all-time greats. I think he would be just fine today because the game isn't as physical as it was back then. That's why he would be just fine. In terms of getting muscled, I think that he would be able to handle himself. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate you, brother. I didn't hear that the Nets might be interested in shopping Kyrie. My thoughts on John Stockton, he's the second best point guard, in my opinion, in my lifetime. The only guy I put ahead of him is Magic. I've said that before, and I stand on that. Most talented running back. Sweetness. Sweetness. Biggest what-if player. Greg Oden. I remember watching Greg Oden and thinking to myself that I was watching the second coming of Patrick Ewing. And no, everybody talks about what was Portland thinking? How did they not take KD? Well, the reason why you're saying that is because you see the finished product. What you didn't see was you didn't see that Greg Oden was 25-12 in the national championship. He was the consummate big man. And this was during the era of the big man, when teams were still building around the big man. And he looked like he was a guy who you could build your team around. He looked like a guy who you could build your team around. We hadn't been introduced to Steph Curry yet. We hadn't met him yet. He'll live. Yeah, he'll live. He'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's a flagrant. Mike, what's up with you, brother? I'm good. My thoughts on Brandon Roy are he was just scratching the surface of being great or being elite. He was becoming that. I think I mentioned this in the past that I was in the building in December of 08 when he put 52 on Phoenix. I was there that night, and he didn't blow me away with anything that he did. He wasn't ridiculously athletic. He wasn't exceptional with the peel. He had a really basic game, but what he did, he was awesome at it. So my thoughts on Atlanta are, I think the way they're constructed right now, I think they're on a run, and they very much can win this thing if they stick around long. They're one of those teams that the longer they stick around, the more confidence that they build. The more confidence they build, the worse it is for you. And they got 6 guys averaging. Good shot. I'm sorry that I got interrupted. Giannis is going to work, and I kind of got sidetracked. Excuse me. They got 6 guys averaging double figures, and Hunter is out of the lineup. So that would have been 7. That would have been 7. So, rank Alonzo Mourning, Pat Ewing, and David Robinson. David Robinson is behind Shaq. Shaq is the 5th best 5-man I've ever seen. David Robinson's behind him. Patrick Ewing is behind him. And then I don't know if Alonzo Mourning was better than Dwight Howard. Who do I think is the best at each position? Magic is the best point guard. Jordan is the best 2 guard. James is the best small forward. Duncan is the best 4-man. Jabbar is the best 5-man. And Atlanta is one of those teams that as long as the longer they hang around, that's a brick. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're hanging around. No second chance points. Good D. Good defense. Good. Good shot, yo. Very good. I don't think Hakeem is disrespected in the GOAT talk. No, I don't. I think he's a top 5 center all time. In my opinion, he's a top 10 player all time. I've already spoken about my life. I talked a little bit about, who I am and what I did. I'm originally from Jersey, so I talked a lot about, is Zeke a top 5 point guard? Zeke is a top 3 point guard, in my opinion. Magic, Stockton, Zeke. Nope. All right. Yep. Who is an underrated shooter, in your opinion? I don't see any underrated shooters in the game. I think all the shooters that are in the game who are known for shooting aren't underrated. Joe Harris is an exceptional shooter. Herter is an exceptional shooter. So the playoffs are where your legend grows. So however big a deal you are in the playoffs, you can make yourself an even bigger deal. So I think the Celtics need a third guy because I think Tatum's a number 1. I do think that. I think Jaylen Brown is a very good number 2. I think they need a third guy, and in order to get that third guy, you're gonna have to put a package together that includes Marcus Smart, which I don't have a problem with. And the reason why I don't have a problem with that is because I think Jaylen Brown is going to be an all-league defender at some point. So the defense that you're going to lose from Marcus Smart, I think you're going to make that up with Jaylen Brown. So what moves do the Lakers need to make? One of the things that it's important, I'd like to bring Drummond back because I think that him, Anthony Davis, and James would work together. That was a small amount of time to put that together. So it wasn't really something that looked good initially, but I think that if you give it time and let Drummond be who he really is, which is a board man, let him be that. He's a board man and a rim runner. And I think that works wonders for what the Lakers are doing. Currently, the way that team is constructed, I think that the bench needs to get expanded because I like Caruso, but I'm not in love with Caruso. I mean, even though he was on that championship team, I like what Caruso is doing. I think that the Lakers need firepower from their bigs. What are you guys doing with Antetokounmpo? What's the story with him? Is he in the plans? What's going on with him? I'm wondering where you guys get more points in the post from the bench. That Caruso nonsense was exactly that. It was nonsense. I think Derrick Rose could have been greater than what he was. No question about it. My thoughts on Rip Hamilton are I think he was a very good 2 guard. I don't think he was elite. I think he had the luxury of playing on a really good team. And that's who he was. I am ready to trade Kuz. I am. Who do I think is winning this series? I think Milwaukee, if they take care of business at home and they don't screw around with this Atlanta team like Philadelphia did, I honestly think that they are going to the NBA. I think this is Giannis's best year since he's been in the league and since he's been competing for the championship. I think this is his best opportunity to do it. Excuse me for a second, guys.
Because you see, every time he goes down low and makes a move, he either gets a layup, a dunk, or he gets somebody a wide open three, but they got to come help. But he got a really bad habit, man, of trying to bring the ball up or go 1-on-5. And that's the only time I worry about the Bucks.
He's got 14 Drew Holiday, and you anticipated that Drew Holiday would have a huge impact in this series.
I'm going to get right back to you guys.
First half, he's going to be huge. He's got a physical advantage over Trey. He can't stop Trey, and Trey can't stop him.
Well, let's talk about exactly that, Kenny, about how you contend with Trae Young, how you would contend with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
You can't stop Trey. Well, I see you, Chuck. I see you. You're on camera with me right now. You're leaning, Chuck. You're leaning, Chuck. You're leaning, Chuck. You're leaning, Chuck. You're leaning. I can see you with my like on camera. Like you're on camera leaning. But, we're talking about how do you defend these two guys. And they're very difficult to guard because of the things that they also have learned over the years on what to do differently, especially Giannis. So now, if you have Giannis right here on the top of the thing, you're saying, well, how do I guard? Freeze him in, freeze in. When you say I'm going to back off him, then all of a sudden he can see the floor.
No ball pressure.
He becomes a better
Means you make this basically, it's like a quarterback being able to sit in the pocket and just throw. That's exactly what happens here. When there's no ball pressure, then you let guys see what's going on offensively, and that doesn't help you as a defender.
I'm not trying to shoot this three. I'm going to back it up. I'm going to take up the space, and then I'm going to come at you full speed. And then I'm too long, too athletic, and too good for you to guard me like that. Trae Young again.
I don't have a team in particularly. No, I don't. And I mentioned this before that a lot of these guys they move around so much that it's difficult to get on board with one team. So yeah, Mobley. I think that Mobley is a player that he looks like he could definitely, him and Suggs. RG3 was a disappointment, man. I thought he was going to be something different, and turns out he wasn't. Is prime Dwight Howard slept on? Yes, he is. I personally think prime Dwight Howard is better than Patrick Ewing. And I get roasted for that, but I do. I think Cade Cunningham, he's a poor man's Grant Hill. And I think he's somebody that you can possibly build around. T-Mac is not underrated. Why would T-Mac be underrated? What about T-Mac's game is underrated? I think he averages almost 30 a game for his career in the playoffs. The problem that we having with him is that he never got out of the first round. And in 2004, or was it 2005? I think it was 2005. They were up 3-1 against the Detroit Pistons, and they gave it up. So Tracy McGrady was on a team that lost 18 straight games. He's in the Hall of Fame, so he's not underrated. Well, the people who don't talk about Tracy McGrady are people who don't know anything about basketball. So that's why he's not talked about. That doesn't mean he's underrated. No, absolutely not. My top 5 shooting guards in order, it's Jordan, Bryant, Wade, Harden, Drexler. Those are my top 5 shooting guards. Should Lou Williams go to the Hall of Fame? And Jamal Crawford? No. I don't think so. Marcus Smart is a top 5 defender when he's healthy. Yes, he is. And he's not only a top 5 defender when he's healthy, he's so much more than that for that Boston Celtic unit. And I spoke about this earlier today, that Marcus Smart is a guy, he's in the same category with Udonis Haslem, Draymond Green, Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman. We're not winning without these guys. So for every Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish and Jabbar and Magic and James Worthy, if we don't have AC Green, we're not doing it. For every Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, if we don't have Horace Grant, we're not doing it. We're not. We need these. Who's the guy when you talk about basketball and when you talk about winning? Everybody has their role. All right. So I got my lock ass defender. Well, I won't even start with that. So I got my scorer, my buckets. That's this guy right here. I got my all-around player. He does everything for me. He passes, he distributes. That's him right here. Who's my guy that's diving on the floor for loose balls and playing defense? Who's that guy? Where's Avery Bradley? We need that. We need these dudes. Who is my guy that's coming in the huddle and saying to Kobe Bryant or saying to Michael Jordan or saying to LeBron James, can you score the rest of the points? Don't worry about 22. I'll deal with him. Don't concern yourself with him. Who is that guy? Because if we have him on the group, if we have him on the crew, we're not losing. We're not. So guys like Marcus Smart and Udonis Haslem and Avery Bradley and AC Green and Ho Grant and Draymond Green, Dennis, these guys, they aren't a part of what we're doing. They're a huge part of what we're doing. This doesn't work without them. It doesn't. Not much, my man. Running good tonight. Running good. So, the way the Miami Heat are currently constructed right now, I don't like what they're doing. I'd like to see them run the offense through Bam, but I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think CP3 is a top 3-point guard all time, even if he does win this year. No, I don't think that. No. How much better was Joe Montana than Peyton Manning? The best example I can give you is Joe was the guy who, when the game got tighter, there was a calm that came over him. Almost like when there was chaos, he was waiting for that. And the calm came over him like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for all day. Okay, great. Give me the ball. We're good. Let's go. There was no panic in him. There was no mayhem in his face. It was always, give me the ball. I got it. I'll do it. Run that play again. I got you. Yeah, I'll do it. He never looked out of sorts. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was precise in what he was doing. Peyton Manning is the best pure passer that I've ever seen. What I mean when I say that is just a guy who can deliver the football. 3-step drop, 5-step drop. There he is. Hit him. Manning's the best I've ever seen. Better than Marino. Better than Favre. Better than Montana. Better than Steve Young. I can go down the line of all the great passes. Better than Brady. He's the best pure passer that I've ever seen. And I stand on that. But I think Joe Montana is a better overall quarterback. So, well, guys, it was great to see you again. And during the playoffs, we'll do this more often. And I'll definitely try to interact with you guys as much as I possibly can. And the good thing is that, you know, the playoffs are going on. So I'll be able to do this a little bit more as opposed to if this was the regular season, I wouldn't be able to do this as much. But because it's the playoffs, we can do this a lot more. So definitely I'm down to do this some more, man. And it was great to see you. Thanks, man. Love you guys too, man. And I'll definitely see you guys soon.